Good afternoon. It's a beautiful Sunday and welcome to Rubbing Minds. My name is Isabella Adediji. Now in a few weeks, it's all going to be about Christmas, end of year, lots of food, celebration in the air. But by the next month, January, I say the fear of school fees will be so real for those who have children. And for most of us, rent. You will agree with me that landlords and landladies across Nigeria, and particularly in Lagos, will be smiling to the bank as the price of rent goes up. A lot of people put their money in real estate because it's something that always goes up and has good returns. But like a double-edged sword, real estate is not immune to some of the problems and challenges. In Lagos State, for example, you'll see some buildings collapse. You'll also see some demolitions going on. And there are lots of questions like, why are these buildings collapsing? What approval did the developer get? And if they're going to be demolished, why now? Why at this stage when the building has been up for such a long time? I mean, these are a lot of questions that are floating around now. To discuss a lot of the demolition that's happening and even the real estate sector in general, I have with me Akpo Ikogo, who is a real estate lawyer. Welcome to Rubbing Minds.
Nice to be here. Thank you very much.
Now, Akpo, tell me, what do you make of a real estate? Is it still valuable? Is it still something that people should keep their money in? When we're seeing like demolitions happening, we're seeing buildings collapsing.
Okay, well, once again, thanks to be here. Now, the real estate sector, particularly in Lagos, is very valuable. As people say, land is the only thing that is not being produced or cannot be produced in a manner of speaking. So, yes, it is very valuable. But the most important thing to do when trying to go into real estate is to always do your due diligence. The process of due diligence covers sending somebody to the Surveyor General's office, getting a lawyer to do a legal search on the property. It also involves going to the place to see whether there are any markings from government, like if government wants to demolish a place, before they do that, they put notices on the premises. They also sometimes do this big red X on it. So you have to do all that investigation before you go into real estate. Real estate tends to appreciate in value consistently.
It's interesting you say that real estate is something that can be manufactured, but I believe growing up, some of us have seen swamps actually become land, or the ocean become land, and land is being reclaimed. I think in the Lagos State, it's something that we can expect to see more land. But what you said about doing your due diligence, does it mean that the people who were supposed to do the due diligence should be held responsible? Or if they did do their due diligence and they got the okay sign, they got all the documents, why does the government wait till the building has been up for a while before putting that X sign? Is the government not aware when the building is being erected, when there's the foundation stage? Why is it for some cases that it's after a while?
Okay, well, that's a great question, and I treated it in a recent article I did in some online magazine. Now, the first thing I'll tell you is Nigerians tend to not want to do due diligence. They tend to believe what the developers or the sellers or the agents tell them. So in most cases, Nigerians do due diligence. Then also sometimes when you do, in my own personal case, when you do the due diligence and you give a search report, some people will tell you that, oh, they have talked to the developer and government said they're going to regularize the place, they're going to release it back to them, so we should go ahead with that. Now, in those kinds of scenarios, I wash my hands off it. Now, as regards the demolition that was done recently, I tend to believe that everybody shares some blame in it. Now, first of all, the government. I have represented clients before that have had their construction sites shut down. Government is aware of every construction that is going on in Lagos State specifically. So why did they wait till those properties were completed before they brought the properties down? To me, it's an economic waste. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of funds that were used in developing these buildings, and it's just a general waste altogether. The best approach would have been to serve notices and ensure that no construction is done further after these notices have been served on these areas.
So government does deserve some of the blame for,
yes, of course. Yes, of course.
For waiting this long.
Yes, they do.
Now, you also put the blame on developers, real estate developers, agents. Is there a way to find a way to certify these people? Because this day and age, we all know someone that is selling land. We all know someone that has gone into real estate, the person has developed a property or so, and all of a sudden they're in the market. Is there some kind of body that regulates the practice of agents and real estate developers?
Well, I believe there is a Real Estate Association of Nigeria. I am not a member, but I believe there is a Real Estate Association of Nigeria. Now, the onus is on government to regulate them, because it is it is difficult or it's risky to tell an agency to regulate themselves. So, of course, government has to come with their oversight. And as regards the developers that build structures on waterways, on land that was approved for something else by the government, I believe that in addition to bringing the structures down, the government has to prosecute these people for doing the wrong thing. And the people that bought from these developers that had their structures pulled down should find some sort of legal redress against these developers, so this act is not allowed to continue. We can't let the developers and the agents just regulate themselves. Government has to come in, and there must be penalties for this bad behavior. That's my opinion. So
in the past, have we seen people who have gone to court to seek redress and get maybe some kind of compensation? Do we have scapegoats of some of these real estate agents or developers?
Well, funny you should say this. Our office, we are currently in talks with some clients to take some of these developers to court. So, well, we'll see how it goes. Of course, we cannot get into the facts of this matter because it's just been brought to us. So, yes, it is very possible to bring a civil claim against them. I also believe, in a manner of speaking, that the government can bring a criminal claim against these developers if they want to do, and I suggest they do that.
And why isn't the government doing that, especially in cases where lives are lost, especially when we see buildings collapse? In some cases, the government has gone ahead to say, okay, everyone should vacate the building. But there are some cases where people still are caught up in this. And why isn't the government taking the lead in doing the right thing?
Well, I believe the Lagos State government acts sometimes, because I am aware of the Lekki Gardens situation then. This was some years ago, where the MD, the CEO of the company, was taken to court. So I believe governments act sometimes. We don't now know if they do that all the time. I believe they should, but they act sometimes. I believe there's criminal liability there. So when a building comes down or is pulled down, there is usually a reason behind this. If it is negligence, if it is substandard materials, somebody just needs to bear the brunt for it. So the government has done that in the past.
And as a lawyer, do you find that a lot of people don't want to consult a lawyer because they feel like, I'm going to pay a lot of money and at the end I might not get my money back, or they just don't trust lawyers to deliver?
My general experience has been that Nigerians don't like to pay professionals, not just lawyers. I believe other professions are affected. But to me, it tends to be a situation of being penny wise and pound foolish. It is better to pay whatever negligible fee the lawyer charges to do a proper search on the property than to lose the hundreds of millions later when the property is pulled down or when you are scammed eventually.
Yeah, I think Nigerians are forced when you're getting a place. I know in my experience, you have to pay agency and lawyer and agreement, and some way you have to pay that money before you get a property. So maybe it's something that needs to be built in,
yes,
to make people who want to get into real estate or purchase properties to actually have to follow the due process. Now, I want us to look at real estate, but for the masses. Now, in more developed climes, the mortgage system is something that's is very popular. People can put a down payment and over 25, 30 years can actually get a house that they can call theirs. But in Nigeria and in Lagos State, it's not as popular. I know the government has tried in the past with some of the Lagos Home Scheme, but even though some of them have been paused, and also we're not seeing enough people getting mortgages. Why is that the case?
Well, I think it's a problem that has a lot of reasons. Now, most Nigerians are low-income households, so can they afford to actually buy properties in the first place? Then properties in Lagos, for example, are usually quite expensive. So then how does a low-income household be able to afford it, even if it's for a long tenure? Then another reason also is that banks tend to give loans, even the mortgage banks, at quite high interest rates. I believe outside Nigeria, in the European countries and the American countries, they give mortgages for very sometimes 0.9% per annum and all that. But Nigerian banks, including the mortgage banks, give at very high interest rates. So eventually it defeats the purpose and it makes buying of the property so expensive. So these different reasons just combine together to make it very difficult. In addition to that, I know about the Lagos Home Scheme. It's quite difficult getting into it. So it is only for a select few.
So what should the government be doing? And are you impressed with the moves some of this newly elected government is doing at the federal level in terms of policy as well as on state level?
And well, at the federal and the state level, I am not aware of any directive or any implementation of the mortgage crisis. Basically, the issue of getting loans homes on mortgage. I'm not aware of anything. So I think there's a lot that needs to be done. Firstly, you must make homes available to people, cheap homes. For the low-income households, you must make cheap homes available. Then you must also ensure that the interest rates are quite low, so the property does not become too expensive over a long period. But as regards these two things I mentioned, I'm not aware of any new thing being done.
It's interesting you speak about cost, because I'm thinking about the FCT, and I know I've seen in the news about a flat rate for getting the C of O. Now, I don't know if that is something that people should expect, or, I mean, if you have 10 houses, should you be paying the same amount as someone who has maybe a small bungalow? When it comes to all these documentation, because that could also add to the cost of why people are not getting, property of their own. Okay, well, in Lagos State, for example, there's no flat rate for getting a CFO. Some certain charges are assessed, and it's usually a proportion of the value of the property. So, for example, you are doing a CFO on a property in Ikorodu, it cannot be the same cost, even though it's the same size of building, it cannot be the same cost as when you are doing a CFO on the property in Ikoyi. So there are variable rates, and I believe that that makes sense, not just a flat rate, because these properties have different values. Now, of course, a property in Ikoyi is not going to command even a percentage of the rent of a property in Ikoyi. So a fixed rate, to me, doesn't really make sense. And finally, what should government be doing? Should they be collaborating with the private sector, with manufacturing companies? What's the solution to the housing problem and housing crisis in Lagos and across Nigeria? Well, it's great that you said this. I believe government has to collaborate with the private sector. And how can they do this? They can do this by providing land, because, under the Land Use Act, the governor of the state is in charge of the land in that state. So by providing land, that is critical. Yes. All right. Thank you very much, Akwa, for joining us on Robbie Minds.